Thank you. I thank the Ranking Member McKinley, for holding this extremely important hearing and allowing me to join my colleagues in bringing attention to the costs associated with the Biden administration's climate and energy goals. According to the Electric Power Research Institute, the average price of electricity is expected to at least double as a result of President Biden's energy policy. If the energy sector were to switch to 100% renewable energy, the American Action Forum estimates the average American household electric bill could increase by $3,800, almost $3,900 per month. In comparison, rentdata.org reports that the rent for the average fair market home for residents in Pennsylvania is about $850 a month for a 2-bedroom residence. So, Dr. Holtz-Eakin, how would increasing the monthly cost of electricity by more than 4 times the cost of rent affect Americans, especially those on the lower end of the income scale and seniors living on fixed incomes?
This would be a replay of the events that I outlined in my written testimony back in the 70s, when we saw large-scale unemployment, we saw sharply higher inflation, we saw stagnant or falling real wages, and it's a recipe for economic distress broadly, and the low-income folks always fare the worst in those circumstances.
And how realistic is President Biden's proposed energy plan?
One of the major messages that it requires these magical black box technologies to appear. The timelines are all way too fast. They're unrealistic about the physics. They're unrealistic about the economics. They're unrealistic about the politics. And to try to do it despite that is really just a disaster.
In Pennsylvania, impact fees collected from the oil and gas industry are an essential tool that allows local and state governments to fund infrastructure projects, emergency preparedness, and terrorism response, and environmental protection, social services, records management, tax reduction. In the counties that I represent, nearly 14 million in impact fees were levied and reinvested into local communities in 2020 alone. So, Ms. Bloodworth, can you speak to the effect of President Biden's plans that they would have on rural communities, such as those that I have the privilege to represent, that rely on impact fees from the energy industry?
Yes. Certainly it would impact both coal and natural gas. It would disproportionately impact consumers, to me, in rural America, whether that's in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, or other states, West Virginia as well, who have a lot of fossil fuel generation. That same generation in Pennsylvania is one of the reasons why PJM didn't experience the same type of blackouts, although the weather wasn't as cold, and was able to export about 11,000 megawatts to the Midwest, which primarily was natural gas and coal generation, because it had the ability to continue to serve as an insurance policy against high electricity prices, which would have been a lot higher, or we would have had blackouts. And again, you could retire every coal plant in the United States, and it is not going to have any meaningful impact. There's no cost versus benefit as China and India and all these other countries are continuing to double their size of their coal fleet, while we in the U.S. are trying to develop technology for coal and natural gas. We just need time and patience and the same type of investment.
How practical would a mandated switch from fossil fuel-driven power to weather-dependent sources of energy, like wind or solar, be in a climate like Pennsylvania? So would we experience outages or rolling blackouts? I mean, what would that mean for us in either the warm summer months or the cold winter months, keeping in mind that Pennsylvania does still do a lot of manufacturing?
Pennsylvania certainly is an anchor state for fossil generation within the PJM footprint. It does have, obviously, because you've got a lot of shale gas, but you also have coal reserves. And right now, 60% of the electricity in the United States is served by fossil fuels. So to think in 15 years, we're going to flip a switch and do away with all fossil fuels, again, it's just not engineering, physics, from a physics standpoint, it's just not, it's not feasible.
So again, I want to thank the ranking member, and I yield back.